Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Today I'm going to show you how to make abstract art. Abstract art is anything you want it to be. It's not recognizable. It's not a person, place, or a thing. It's lines, shapes, techniques. So I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. You're going to need Sharpies, watercolor. I've got a little watercolor set here, but any watercolor will do. Sharpies, if you have them, because the Sharpie will not bleed with the watercolor. If you only have markers, you could just do the design portion of this. We're also going to do an acrylic piece with a canvas. Of course, you could use any kind of heavier paper and any other paints really that you have at home. Some optional supplies are salt and some plastic wrap. So stop the video, go get those things, or watch the video and then pause and you know what to do. All right, so the first abstract piece we're gonna do is Sharpie and watercolor. So you are going to draw lines anywhere and any way you want to on your paper. It's completely up to you. I like to vary my Sharpie lines. They can be really close. And you could just keep going and going and going. So a Sharpie, when water is put over it, will not bleed. Okay, so I'm not going to do the whole paper. I encourage you to do so, but for the purposes of my demonstration, I'm just going to do a little piece. Now, we're going to do wet on wet, which means that we have to put water. Oh, that bled. That's actually kind of cool. So you can tell this one was not a Sharpie and this one was. I want you to use a Sharpie. Sometimes happy little accidents happen, right, Bob Ross? So I've wet my paper and I'm going to get a smaller brush and I'm going to load my brush up with water and I can just start kind of tapping. I actually kind of like that now, happy accidents. And I can blend a couple of colors if I want, but I'm just going to take this over, kind of digging that. Now here's where the plastic wrap and the salt come in. If you want to do some experimenting with some color blending, you can. I added red, and now I'm going to do a little purple. That was blue more. So over in this purplish area, red and blue is purple, I'm going to add some salt. Now you don't want to add very much salt. So I put it in my hand and then I just kind of rub it together. You want very little salt. And what's going to happen is that salt is going to absorb the water. And because the water is colored, it's going to leave these really cool little star images like this. See all those little white spots? That's the salt that has sucked up the water in the paint. Now, plastic wrap. I'm going to take some plastic wrap and I'm going to put it over. And you have to do this very quickly, the wet area. I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to show you the next abstract, and then I'm going to show you what these effects did, okay? So the next abstract work of art is going to be acrylic. You don't need water for this. And you're going to put your acrylics directly on your canvas or your paper, okay? And I like to always start with my lightest colors. You're also going to need some cardboard. So it could be a cereal box. It needs to be heavy enough that it will scrape the paint. You do not need a paintbrush for this. And I would suggest, that is a piece of cardboard from a soap box. And I would suggest a couple because they might get a little messy. I also might put some newspaper down, maybe even a plastic bag to stick these in when you're done. And if you do go over the page, you're going to want to put something down that will catch any paint. So I'm going to put this down. It's just an Amazon bag that I don't really care about. So when I go over, it will get on the bag and not my table, okay? So I like to start with my lightest color first, which is gonna be yellow, and I just put some on there. And then I take my card and I scrape it. And I move it and I scrape it. And I go both directions. I love doing this. It's so much fun, very satisfying. And then, I gotta move quickly because acrylic does dry pretty quick. I'm gonna get some, let's do some red, and yellow and red. You know what yellow and red makes, but if you don't, here you go. So now I'm gonna go back and forth any way that I want to. Maybe those edges. Now you can dry this in between with a hair dryer, depending on how you want to do it. I'm going to get another piece of cardboard, and let's do some blue. Now let's do some, green. And you're going to find some colors you don't like. And if you let those dry, you can just go over them. And maybe some blue. So you could just keep going, going, going. Always put your acrylic directly on. Now acrylic will stain your clothes, so make sure that you wear an apron or a shirt that you don't mind getting dirty. So many things that you can do. Now, if you completely hate this, you could always let it dry and completely start over, okay? Here are two others that I have done. And if you stick around for part 2, I will show you another thing that you can do with those. Let's take a look at our first one. It hasn't quite dried yet, but you can kind of see what's going to happen with the plastic bag. It's going to make these really cool little lines. So stick around for part 2, and I'll see you in a bit.